What's up everyone, it's ENDYMION, and today there's some stuff I've been trying to honestly avoid talking about due to how annoying everything is around it. But now it's become pretty much impossible to escape, so naturally I'll be covering it here. From Hades 2's character designs being celebrated even though the game very clearly pushes an obvious agenda that has pissed off quite a few people and for good reason. And also I want to bring attention to friend of the channel Kabrutus Rambo and his sweet baby detected Discord getting hacked recently and what that is all about, but let's begin. To start, let's look at this article from thegamer.com titled, "It Doesn't Matter How Hot Hades 2's Cast Is." Of course, this comes from Stacey Henley over at The Gamer, who has been pushing Hades 2's design as being the perfect representation of what this industry needs. They even state in their highlights the reasons for this, including things like, if all you care about with Hades is how hot the characters are, you're really boring. With unique interpretations of gods, we get a greater insight to what makes these versions distinct. Celebrating and criticizing the designs is fine, but it needs to go beyond attractiveness. It's that second point there that really shows the media bias of today's modern journalism landscape. Because if anything, the interpretation of the Greek gods within Hades 2 is anything but accurate. In fact, one look at any of these gods and you can immediately tell there's a deliberate attempt in order to diversify a cast of gods who are very obviously based on Greek mythology. And Greeks are considered Caucasian or white if you will, so naturally you'd expect their gods to get the accurate representation since it's tied to their culture. But of course, like always, when it comes to Caucasian representation in anything these days, it doesn't matter. Because white people have obviously become the de facto group of people that can be bullied and attacked because being racist towards white people is apparently impossible. You'll hear plenty of idiots online say it's because white people started slavery or wars, yet all that proves is that the majority of the people who are openly racist towards white people have never actually read a history book in their lives if that's their opinion on things like this. If anything, every kind of person regardless of skin or gender has ties to slavery, either being the oppressor or the oppressed. It's not like slavery is somehow exclusive to one race of people only or something, neither is war. Because if you tell black people that places like the now defunct Kingdom of Dahomey enslaved and sold their own people for goods, their heads might explode from that information. But these are the sorts of people we're obviously dealing with when it comes to things like this. They'll attack things that feature objectively attractive individuals like Stellar Blade, but Hades is of course the gold standard now. Yet taking one look at many of their designs and you'll immediately ask yourself, for a game based on Greek gods, why isn't anyone Greek looking? Of course, I can already hear some typing and saying it's cause mythological gods are not real, therefore they don't need to be represented in any authentic way based on culture. But you and I both know that this is only the case because Hades is Greek, which is obviously white, and that's the reason above anything else. If Supergiant Games made a Hades-like experience based on African or Egyptian mythology, the entire cast would be authentically representative of the cultural roots. Look into your heart, you know it to be true. If an African mythology like Hades game existed, every god would be a black character voiced by only black actors. Because authenticity and respect only seem to exist as long as the source material is not, of course, white people predominantly. One look at a character like Hermes proves this already. Hermes is an Asian guy in Hades, yet since when were Greeks considered Asian people? It doesn't matter, of course, in the eyes of modern journalism and devs. Representation above everything else only matters. We see this double standard all the time, of course, even within other games or properties. For example, in the original X-Men the Animated Series, Jubilee, who is an Asian character, was voiced by Allison Court, who as you can see on screen is very obviously a white woman. This was totally fine because her voice meshed well with the character. However, in the X-Men 97 series, which debuted recently on Disney+, Jubilee was recast with Holly Chow playing Jubilee instead because it was now considered racist for a white woman to play an Asian character. Even though this goes against the entire concept of voice acting, which is that it doesn't matter who you are behind the microphone as long as you fit the character. The moronic idea that you need to look like the character you're voicing in real life is beyond stupid in every way imaginable. Especially considering at the same time characters like Kratos are voiced and mocapped by actors like Christopher Judge, who is very obviously not a Greek man in any shape or form. Don't get me wrong, he does a good job as Kratos and his voice fits the character very well. But by these same double standards being issued, Judge playing Kratos should technically be considered racist and tone-deaf on Santa Monica Studios and PlayStation's part. Yet instead, Judge was showered with praise and awards for his portrayal of Kratos, yet we both know if Bayek of Siwa from Assassin's Creed Origins was voiced and mocapped by a white guy, the woke mainstream media would lose their goddamn minds. There's a lot of double standards in today's industries across the board. It's why whenever you look up some actor on, say, their Instagram, they'll go out of their way to tell you what ethnicity and nationality they are on purpose. It's simply to virtue signal and show people that you're diverse, and this then again circles back to Hades 2. Because one look at Ares, for example, in the game, and it's a black person, just a straight up black individual with white hair who's apparently the Greek god of war. Yet these websites like The Gamer will praise that, and of course there's a discourse surrounding the now infamous Hestia from Hades 2 as well. She's the goddess of flame, and is yet again another Greek character that has been completely race swapped. She's depicted in Hades 2 as an overweight black woman with vitiligo, which is a skin condition that causes patches of your skin to lose pigment or color. So this character is checking off a lot of boxes from a design standpoint when it comes to being diverse clearly. Many fans online have understandably been very vocal against this character design, stating it goes far beyond the other designs in the game and comes off even racist. Of course, defenders of Hades 2 will say it's an artistic interpretation and is unique, but again, it's rules for thee but not for me all over again. If we had an African mythology character, we would not have a white woman goddess with vitiligo that makes patches of her skin black. Because the game would be torn apart by people who think gender identity matters more than anything else. And like I've said in previous videos, you'll notice how many of the games that get nominated come award season always do to some capacity have forced diversity and representation within them. Of course, there's some outliers which are just so good they can't be ignored, like Sekiro or Elden Ring, which both won Game of the Year at the Game Awards when they both released. But largely speaking, the games industry has become an inclusive club of you either do what we want or we erase you pretty much. And likely the main reason why Hades 2 offers so much representation in their designs is not even really because the devs even want it that way, but instead it's a surefire way to get into the good graces of the people who decide what gets nominated and win those awards. I don't want to throw Supergiant Games under the bus here because largely speaking, I do think they're a great developer. I've played all of their games, and even their worst game in my opinion, which was called Pyre, it was still a good game. But what Supergiant does over there is kind of what I consider the future of gaming to be in the long run. And I don't mean the forced diversity part, but instead how that company operates and sells their products. Supergiant is not a big team, and their budgets are obviously a mere fraction of, say, what AAA games go for these days. I wouldn't be surprised if a single icon battle in Final Fantasy XVI cost almost half or more of the entire budget for Hades 2. But that's the kind of crater-sized difference we're talking about here when it comes to the inflation of games budgets between AAA and indie. Supergiant also smartly markets their games for cheaper. I mean, Hades 2 is $30 American in early access right now on Steam, and good for them. It's selling really well, and that's great. I don't want this video to come across as me saying Hades 2 is a bad game, because it isn't. Supergiant makes quality products aplenty. Nothing they've made has ever felt cheap or busted either. Even in their Bastion and Transistor days, I thought they were creating really unique experiences that people should play, because they're awesome. But I also think what Supergiant is doing here with the forced diversity of its Greek mythological gods is less so because they want to, and more so because they know if they don't do that, they'll risk Metacritic scores being lower or journalists complaining, obviously. We both know if Hades 2 had accurate Greek gods in it only, Stacey Henley from The Gamer would complain the game is too white, and would argue that the game is less because it doesn't fit their twisted sense of agenda pushing. Honestly, to me anyway, it seems like Supergiant is just playing both sides of the argument here to ensure that they come out on top, and clearly it's working as intended. They get the woke brownie points from journalists, the praise of review scores, and they obviously secure sales because the game is cheaper than most new releases. And Supergiant's seal of quality is obviously very important, and their games run pretty flawlessly across the board, at least in my experience anyways. But it's very obvious that there's an agenda being pushed here on purpose, and I also believe that Hades 2's praise from the same people who often yell colorism and phobic finger pointers at those they disagree with is very obvious too. Especially when you have journals claiming that characters are hot, like Hephaestus, who is an overweight man in a wheelchair. Yet we both know that they wouldn't look at this guy if he passed them off on the street. Designs like these are made to fulfill quotas and tick boxes, that's all it really is. Anyway, Stacey Henley of The Gamer had a bit more to say on this, and I quote, "With Hades, it's at least a more interesting conversation. Stellar Blade never really got out of the you hate hot women. No, I think Eve looks cool actually, you're lying and woke, and that made liking Eve embarrassing and the whole conversation dull. With Hades, things are a lot more interesting and nuanced, but as ever, the most extreme takes also seem to be the most misguided. They were their own kind of hot, with traditional elegance, sweat-glazed muscles, searing intellect, dazed twinks, moody goths, daddies, mommies who would tuck you in at night. Mommies who would step on your neck. It was a rich tapestry, all carried by a rippling, stylish, confident, caring bisexual lead. But hot they all were, and for some that was a problem. Despite the range of attractiveness, there were debates over just how many bases were covered, and how representative Hades really was when attractiveness was everywhere you looked. I say this as an ugly person and therefore vastly underrepresented in modern media. It's fine if everybody is hot. Especially if, as in Hades, there's a lore reason for it. Gods having the perfect physical form makes a lot of sense. But if your base character design idea is they must be hot, eventually you end up being pigeonholed." End quote. You can tell just from what Henley wrote here that they objectively enjoy Hades' designs because they tick those boxes. They even state that they like Zagreus because he's bisexual. Why not say you like Zagreus because he's heroic or brave? Because the only thing that really matters is of course what they like in the sack. And then just look at Aphrodite, which I can't even show her whole body because it'll get me demonetized if you can believe it. But a user recently took some time out of their day to fix Aphrodite's face, and here was the result. As you can see on the left, we have the fixed face versus the original on the right. With this comparison in mind, it's easy to tell that the original Aphrodite is clearly meant to look both male and female at the same time. Of course, people came out all over Twitter to attack this artist, claiming that they were all sorts of phobics for doing what they did. But that reaction to a simple change should tell you everything you need to know right there. That's how that community would react if you reduce the identity politics in your character designs deliberately. They will attack you and just freak out, and when you make a female character actually look like a female, they hate you for it. You see what I mean? This is evidently why Supergiant went down the androgynous route with many of their designs and included things like skin conditions and race swaps aplenty. Because they likely know if they stepped out of line even once and don't pander to these individuals, they'll be teared into pieces immediately. And that's something I've been saying for a while now, that a lot of these forced representations are not genuine, and the people you're catering to are only supporting you as long as you believe what they do 100%. You even drop to 99 out of 100 and you're as good as dead to them. Look, I don't think Hades 2 is a bad game at all. In fact, I would probably play it once it comes to PS5 like I did the original Hades and every other game that Supergiant has made. But we have to be honest with ourselves that these designs and changes are only being done to play nice with the weirdos who lurk and post on various websites. One look at a majority of these designs and you can immediately tell, maybe outside of Zeus, that these are just not Greek gods. These are Greek gods seen through the eyes of a San Francisco echo chamber. I mean, Supergiant is literally based in that city too. You either play ball or you're torn to shreds, and if you don't agree with them, they'll even try to ruin you and hack you too. Recently, Kabrutus has told Twitter that his Sweet Baby Detected Discord was hacked by someone anonymously. This unknown individual was able to delete hordes of diversity equity index research compiled by hundreds of their members. They even nuked various channels on the Discord, banned loads of people without any explanation, and disrupted the progress of an indie project that was on the Discord too. Apparently, once everything was said and done, around 2,000 artists and creators were banned from the server, and they were able to gain control, and Kabrutus has confirmed that the digital blood trail that was left behind confirms that whoever did this was not someone that was a part of the Discord already. This was, unsurprisingly, a coordinated attack done in order to cause as much trouble and damage as possible for as long as they could before action was taken. Of course, you won't see mainstream websites reporting on this because in their eyes, they probably don't want the smoke that'll come if they do report on it. And likely, even if they did report on it, they'd consider it a win because it obviously doesn't align with their moronic principles and tenets. So when I tell you that there is a war between one way of thinking versus another, I definitely mean it. This industry would want nothing more than for people like myself, Kabrutus, Yellow Flash, Grums, and more to all die or fade away. They want to continue to push these moronic practices no matter what because they deem it necessary for progress. But what they refuse to admit is that what they're doing is not really progress, but instead it is regressing most of the work these studios and franchises have done over the years. Because clearly, a lot of these projects fail and then studios close down, and then you have franchises like the Batman Arkham series that have just been destroyed thanks to these ideological stances, to name just one example of many. This is not just a battle of you're wrong, I'm right. This is something that'll keep going on and eventually lead to an all-out war between the players and the industry at large. I would say this will be the last attack on Kabrutus' Discord server, but it's likely nowhere near the last. I spoke with him personally, and he confirmed that the attack did come from someone outside. As for who that is right now, they're trying to figure that out. Just watch, they'll try to hack the SBI detected Steam page and probably attempt to take it down as well too. Then when you say you're being targeted because you don't agree with the status quo, these same insane people will just gaslight you and tell you that you're crazy for thinking that. As Neon from Clownfish TV stated in a recent tweet, social justice weirdos will resort to everything imaginable in order to take you down. They'll DDoS, hack, attack, blame, write hit pieces, and defame you for disagreeing with them. They'll put bounties on your heads like we saw with Grumps from Twitch streamers to other weirdos, or they'll fake death threats on themselves to garner support like Alyssa Mercanti tries to do. Or they'll even contact family members for gotchas, also another thing that Alyssa Mercanti of Kotaku did as well, by the way. They'll even ban you from conventions using their connections, as we saw recently with the VTuber Kirsch, who I think I'm mispronouncing, and if I am I apologize, but they recently got banned from an expo as well. Why, you may ask? You know exactly why, because this VTuber questions the status quo, and doesn't subscribe to the nonsense that these weirdos push, so naturally they will resort to defaming their enemies and removing them from public spaces so that they can't garner more support. And all of these things, what they end up doing, whether it's hacking Discord servers or banning people, is making more people sympathetic to their cause and will just create a bigger platform for them. Like I always say, leave it to woke weirdos to always tell on themselves and make your platform bigger. You literally don't need to do anything either. They will self-sabotage and self-own themselves on purpose as they try to make sense of their moronic standpoints. Just let them do what they want. They're destroying any goodwill they have all by themselves. And whether it's Hades 2 playing the gender game or Sweet Baby sympathizers trying to destroy their opposition, this battle is far from over. They think we're stupid and will lay on our backs and take it, but they don't seem to realize how connected this community really is. So go ahead and try to divide us. All you're going to do is make our cause stronger and more widespread. And we won't stop until entertainment is great again. Even then we'll make sure those weirdos stay in their caves salivating. Because if you even give them an inch, they'll take everything, as we saw with Kabrutus and the hack at least. And finally, I just want to cover a story that recently came to my attention about Winston Duke apparently wanting to play Batman, which kind of ties into the whole forced diversity, equity, and inclusion nonsense. Apparently Winston Duke wants to change narratives, but to be frank with you, I don't think a black guy should play Batman. The same way I don't think the Black Panther should ever be played by a white guy. Some characters are just too intrinsically tied to their skin color and depiction. If Winston Duke wanted to play Batwing, sure, yeah, that's fine, but Bruce Wayne Batman? No. The changing of narratives nonsense is just pushed by individuals to move goalposts and try to weasel their way into things. The fact we've reached a point where so many people openly don't care about the legacy of characters is really what annoys me the most. Although I could see one day DC giving in and making Batman black, but at that point I think the audience and moviegoers would speak with their wallets, and they'd quickly realize how much of a mistake it would be. Some characters are iconic by design, and like Superman, I think Batman should always be a white man. Just how Storm from the X-Men should always be a black woman, and Jubilee should always be an Asian girl. There's nothing wrong with saying that. But I guarantee you, if Duke became Batman, places like The Gamer and IGN would lose their minds and celebrate it. But again, like I've been saying this entire video, notice how it's only okay to race swap and change identities of things as long as it's primarily white. Exactly. Just like Hades 2's Greek gods, Duke being Batman would be for no other reason than to appease these weirdos. Duke is better than that, and again, he can still be Batwing if he wants since that character is black, or John Stewart Green Lantern even would be cool. I don't ever want to see a male Wonder Woman or a female Barry Allen, less so because you might think I'm rigid in my way of thinking, but more so because it's just boring. It proves they can't add anything but race to a role these days anyways, so no, stop it. Stop race swapping characters. If it's not okay to race swap a black character into a white one, then it should not be a good idea the other way either. That's my opinion anyways. Anyway, what do you think about all of this? Let me know in the comments below. Subscribe, share, and like the video. Thanks to my patrons, and have a wonderful day. And I'll see you in the next one.